Hey, what's up, everyone? Um, I'm going to take a look at the Hell mask and the printability and the moldability of his mask. And Frank, if this is going to be set on private, then that's all good. Hello, Frank. Uh, so, thanks for sending me your mask and doing most of the cleanup. So here's your mask, and I've just marked out in red some potential areas that's going to cause problems when we decide to print this guy, and also when we decide to mold and cast this guy. So we want to also think about the any major problems that we'll have when we're going to be molding this in a silicon mold, and thinking about how the silicon is going to flow into the crevices, and also how once that's set into a semi-hard flexible silicon, how we are going to be able to pull out the model on casting it with rigid resin. Okay, so looking at this, for just for 3D printing, and if you're not going to be molding and casting, then I would say what you've sent me is perfectly fine, and it should print out perfectly fine. You've done a great job with cleaning up the inside of it, so that all the inside of it is, it's nice and clean. You don't have any weird boogers inside, so that's all good. So in terms of 3D printing, it should be okay and good to go. But if we have a think about one of the main concerns that I have is this your horn here is quite thin. Okay, so if you think about this model in the actual physical size that it's going to be, which is what is it, 10 centimeters high, around 10 centimeters tall, right? So that's about this big. So it's not going to be huge, and if you basically size the model on your screen to the actual physical size corresponding to your model, it's quite a small model, like depending obviously on the size of your screen. But I am on a 32-inch, not 32, 28-inch screen, and size the model. Or a good way to judge whether the details you're putting in is going to read on the scale that you're intending to print out, is to basically size the ZBrush model to the actual size that you'll be printing out on your screen. Okay, so looking at your model, I would say these horns are too thin, especially at the tip here, at the tips. So I would either fatten them up, so inflate and fatten them up, or try and chop them off, maybe like chop them off, so maybe they're not, they don't taper off to such a thin end, because they might print, but these will pretty much just break straight away. Um, yeah, it's going to be too delicate, and yeah. So either make them thicker or chop them off. Chop them off, like to around there. Okay, and what that also means, because what that will also help solve the problem of when it comes to molding is that because these loop back into themselves and have a really, really rounded edge. When you're doing the molding, if you're going to be molding this in silicon, it's going to be really hard to try and pull this out of the mold, okay? And that leads to the second part here. So I've marked out some areas where I would like, if we're going to be molding this, is you want to be basically flattening and removing these overhangs. So when I'm talking about overhangs, these are overhangs, right? So the crevices and the cavities are too deep and too steep of an angle. So what you want to do is you want to use the, maybe the inflate brush. And with sculptures turned on, and obviously fix it so you're happy with the final design. But yeah, you just want to get rid of these overhangs. And obviously we've got a booger here which we'll get rid of. Okay. And so this will basically make it much easier to mold. So for the silicon and the resin cast to be pulled out of the mold. And you can see it doesn't really affect the overall design that much. And for this back here, what I would do is, and thinking about how the model is going to be presented in physical life, is people are going to be seeing it from the front mostly only, right? They're not going to be looking at it directly on the side. So you can make these parts thicker as well. You make your ears a little bit thicker. So the trick is to not have stuff, not have things too thin when we're turning this into an actual physical product or sculpture. And always zooming out to the size that you're going to be printing out at, and then seeing if your forms will read at that scale. Because obviously when you're working in digital, we're either looking at it on our phone or on a large monitor, but when you're printing it out in physical form, it will be locked to that size. So yeah, so that's the ear part. So that's how you would fix it. And so you want to do it for this side as well. You want to fill in that gap and cavity, okay, and make the ears a little bit thicker. The worms, so there are little areas here on the worms that have the same idea, that the issue that I showed you just now. So this overhang here, this deep crevice, right? Although it will 3D print out, right? It's going to print out fine. When we're molding and casting it, it's not good. That's just not going to work, because what's going to happen is the silicon, the mold, is going to get trapped in here, and when we try and remove the cast, thinking about how we're going to be removing it, we need to pull the model out that way, right? Alright, so we're going to be pulling it out that way. Well, there's going to be silicon in here, so how is the cast going to come out? Right, so that's going to, it's called a locking, so you're going to lock the mold. So what we want to do is basically fill this void here, and I'll leave that up to you because this is your design, but you can either put another worm in here, or again use the inflate tool and just fill that void, or you can push this part inside. So a couple of ways to do it. And basically you basically want to just fill that overhang. That's all. Right? Something like this. Okay, and then yeah, obviously do your cleanup properly, but just fill that area so there's no large cavity hanging out. Right? And again, you can put another worm in there, or push the overhang in, whatever you like to do. Okay. And so it's a compromise, right? You do your concepting to concept in your ZBrush, but when it gets to the step of actually thinking about how it's going to be created, you may need to change your design somewhat to compromise between the ability to be able to produce it and how it looks in digital land, right? So again, these deep cavities here, you want to fill those in. Okay. What happens is as well, when it comes to molding and casting, you'll find that these cavities will most of the time trap air bubbles, and so they're not going to cast anyway, so you end up with nasty looking air bubbles in here, and that's going to destroy your design anyway. Okay, so cavities like this is okay because you'll see there's no overhang, right? It's not overlapping each other. Like if it was like this, then you might have issues in the bottom, but you don't. So there's a clear path for that resin and the model to pull out. Okay. So again, especially this area here, right? You'll want to fill that void. So either push your worm back like so, push your worm in, so it's then trapped, overlapping the face, and then you can do your boolean or fill it with something, right? So if you need to, what I've done in the past is just use insert primitive and then just insert a sphere here or something, and that's basically think about this as as a piece of clay that you're filling in the model, right? And then do your boolean operation. Okay. And then you can sculpt it so it sort of fits into the design, whatever you like to do. But yeah, you just don't want to have that void in there. Okay, so yeah, so now that's part of your design. Same thing with the nose. So the holes for the nose, you don't necessarily need to have these so deep. So I would just make them. I would just make them less deep. And you see this with a lot of traditional, bronze sculptures as well. Is that the nose holes, if they are bronze cast, sometimes they fill those up because if you don't, it will either trap the material you're pouring in, or they just won't look any good. You have big holes in them. So this is a big problem here as well. So you've got such a tight cavity here. It's too deep, so you want to, whatever you want to do. If you want to use the insert mesh method, or just live or just Sculptris Pro. Oh yeah, it's all about smoothing that out. Okay. So you need to play with the design, go a little bit back and forth with it, fix up, and you may need to resculpt in details, things like that. But yeah, I think you're a smart guy, Frank. I think you know what I'm talking about here. Yeah, so I've just marked out some areas where you need to smooth out the cavities a little bit, especially here as well. So I've marked these in red for you. Now the other thing that sorry, I'm just looking at your Twitter message here. No problems. Yes, if you want, then that means I will get a good grade. Well, you did a pretty good job for your first time, mate. I would say a 10 out of 10 for the cleanup on the inside. And then, this is a completely new, different thing with regards to making things that can be molded. So what did you say? But the sound on your videos are very low. Yeah, sorry, dude. Because I live in an apartment, I can't scream too loud. And I'm recording on a webcam. So, sorry. Yeah, but just up your volume because I am recording at the highest level possible on my shitty webcam. Okay. So I just noticed that the ear here is gonna, again, too deep. So you want to make that less deep. Okay. So yeah, just fill that in. It's not going to, that's not going to break the design, but it's going to help with the production. Okay, so the other thing that you should be aware of is, again, zooming the model out so it's to the correct scale, to the correct physical scale, and looking at the details and seeing if they're going to be readable or not, or if it's going to be printed. So one of the main things that jump out at me that's not going to read well in the 3D print is these lines here for your worms, right? They're too thin. They're not deep enough. So you need to, if you want the details to read better, you need to carve these lines a lot deeper. What's going on? Come on, ZBrush. Why are you being a jerk? Okay, so yeah, obviously you'll do a better job than I am here. But the main thing is that you need to carve these lines a lot deeper for it to print out to read on the 3D print. So generally, when I'm doing a good 3D print, I will increase the contrast, increase the detail by around 20%, because you're going to lose 20% in your 3D printing process, and you're probably going to lose about 10% detail on the casting process. So you need to compensate that in your digital sculpture by increasing and boosting the details by 30% usually. So you can boost the details by using the contrast deformer, providing you have enough polygons here. So if I boost it to 100, right? So see how it's boosting on the contrast, but the problem with your mesh is that it's too heavily decimated. So it's the contrast is based on the normals on your model. So it's just pushing it out based on your normals. But if you've got a really heavily decimated mesh like this, the contrast may break up to a certain point. Okay, so if I change this to 20, you see that it doesn't break that much. But if so you can do it a few times, but you'll see that the more I go, yeah, so especially the back here, the more that it's going to screw up. Of course, you can mask this. Right. Then do your contrast, and then fix up any strangeness here. But yeah, I would increase the contrast before your decimation. So do the increase the contrast before you decimate, because it's about 500 points, 500,000 points for your model. I think having something under 1 million will be fine, and you still get enough polygons. Like for our project, we probably want 2 separate files. You want one for the rendering online, so if you're going to be doing the 3D preview on the website, you want a low polygon count for that. But for the 3D printing, you want a pretty high polygon count. So anything around 1 million is usually good for something this size. Okay, and you want to boost your details. Either you can use the contrast slider, or go in here and then manually sculpting the details back in. You may not need to do this for every single line, right? You just do it for some areas, so the details read better. Okay. So yeah, don't go back and redo your sculpt, but just add little accents. And this is the same with the with your horns as well. So the details on the horns are a little bit too fine, right? And they're just not going to read at all when we 3D print it out. So you really want to dig your details in. Even that might be enough. A good way to test this, to see if your details are going to read, is to change your material to the skin shade. Okay, so skin shade is a good material because it sort of smooths everything out, and yeah. So if you can't read your details with skin shade, then it's definitely not going to print out. It's definitely not going to read as a physical thing. So yeah, and the frequency as well of this noise is a bit too high. Again, I know you're used to working for games and visual effects, like for high fidelity on the screen. But you need to think about, when we're doing physical sculptures, just think about how it's going to read in physical size at this, right? on my screen, it's literally this scale. Right, so you'll see that on this side, you can't see the details at all, right? But on this side, you can see the lines. That's simply because I'm using bigger and deeper lines here. Right, so yeah, so that's something to be aware of. If you don't have the time to fix this, then don't worry about it, man. It's all a learning process for us. I can more than happy to just print out what you have here already. But if you do want to try and make a silicon mold, then I would suggest going through and fixing up these little red areas that I've marked up for you. So one good thing about working in digital land is that we can simulate a mold, a silicon mold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just chop off. I'm going to chop off your horns here. This is going to make it easier to cast because of this. So what I've done is I've actually made a digital version of the mold. Okay, so there's your head, right? And the pink part is the mold made from silicon. Okay, and when we're pouring the mold, we'll be doing it like this. And then when we are removing the part from the mold, okay, the part will plop, 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 come out here. Okay. Let me just fill this with a solid color. Can I do that? Sorry. Give me 2 seconds. Okay, good. So, just think of this part, this whole thing, as a silicon mold. So if we're looking at this, the big problem we're going to have is these, again, this is the horn area. This is where your horns are. Right, this is where your horns are. It's really deep, and it's got quite a big overhang here. So in order to remove the casting from this mold, I would have to cut, using a knife, cut the mold in these areas. And also in your ears as well, to cut, and at your bottom of the face, the jaws. Okay, and cutting the mold is okay. So sometimes you will get a mark where that cut is, but because it's on the back, it should be okay. But for the horns, I would suggest making them a bit shorter, right? So they're not curving inwards. So this cutting them off about here will be better. And then if we look at the mold again, so if you look at the thickness, right? Look how thin that is. So thinking about this will be silicon. So silicon is soft, right? And this heavy undercut here, it's going to be soft silicon. So it's going to flop around in actual life, right? That's probably not going to be a great mold. So basically what I'm saying is, again, this is too steep, this area here, okay? So you don't really need to have that big undercut. What I would suggest you do is fill out this entire jaw area. If you can, right. And then do your boolean or your knife so that the undercut is not so steep. Okay, so we just have a bigger volume here. So rather than this, have this, okay, and that's really just going to help help pulling out the cast. It's really going to help because if you think about how the resin cast is going to come out. We need to try and pull this thing out of the silicone just like this, right? So if you have a big undercut here, like your horns and your ears, it's going to make life quite difficult. And this is why if you look at my mask that I sculpted for the previous videos, you'll see that I filled in all those big overhangs. So that allows me to pull out the model from the mold much easier. Just makes life easier. But again, it's a compromise, right? You want to have some cool design elements, but you also want to make your life easier when you try and mold this. So yeah, man, that's it. If you've got the time to fix, I'll send these files, this ZBrush project to you. If you have time, just take a look at the areas I've marked in red. And you don't need to, I think for the ears it's fine. You don't need to fill out the ears, the horns. But yeah, maybe if you want to, you can even make these a bit thicker. Again, thinking about physical product. You don't want thin pieces because they break much easier as well. So you might want to make these thicker also. Maybe make these a little bit thicker. Again, we won't be seeing most people will be viewing it from the front. The model's going to be viewed from the front. No one's going to be looking at it directly from the side. So you can make these areas a little bit thicker. Anyway, so yeah, I hope all that's helped you. And hit me up if you have questions, buddy. Cool. Awesome model, by the way. Love it.